Okay, so salam alaikum, good afternoon, buenas tardes. Welcome to this meeting. We are going to talk about dealing with Apex governor limits in enterprise software development. So just as a quick summarize, we are going to talk about this kind of governor limits that you already know about, but in the context of enterprise and the challenges that we may face when working with this kind of limitation by Salesforce. And also, we are going to present a new tool, a tool that we develop internally at our company that helps us measure this kind of limitations in order for us to be alerted before they actually happen. Okay, so to start, I'm going to present myself. My name is David. I'm based in Malaga. I'm working in Malaga, in the south of Spain. I am a senior Salesforce developer. I have been knowing the platform for the last 4 years. Just to talk something about myself, some of my hobbies are just video games, reading books, science fiction, fantasy, and also I'm very passionate about technology. I'm so always willing to learn new stuff and to tackle new challenges. Okay, so also we have my mate José.
Okay, my name is José. I am a senior Salesforce developer. I changed Java for Salesforce 4 years ago. 1 second. And yeah, I like to code on Salesforce ecosystem, discover new features. And on my free time, I like to play football, meet with friends, the typical things people do in the free time. Can you? Yeah. So to start with, we will explain what is to develop in Salesforce at a company which owns its organization and has a really big product with a wide variety of applications. First, we need to understand that this may mean that the organization needs to be split in different domains to help in the management at a high level. Also, it's important to define also, it's important to split the work into multiple and distributed teams, which will focus on their own domains and will own the knowledge of each section of your product. Additionally, it's important to define a package delivery system for all the teams to work together in the same environment without blocking each other. And lastly, it's really important to own a reliable software development lifecycle if you want to develop new features in Salesforce in a smooth and easy way under this context. Next slide. So now let's do a quick recap about Apex governor limits. As you know, Salesforce is a multi-tenant environment. Apex governor limits help to avoid monopolizing system resources and share the same resources among different customers. This allows the different customers to trust in Salesforce and trust on their environments and will always be available for the business processes. The resources measured by Apex governor limits are the SOQL, SOSL, DNLs, HTTP requests, synchronous Apex invoked, email sent, CPU, event published, and push notification. So now let's put an example. You and your team are working on an important project with a really hard timetable and also stakeholders are pushing really hard. You have multiple teams working together in different parts of the project to speed up the process as much as possible. You have also several developers working in parallel in modularized features of the project. So everything is working fine, but when developers start to package all the features together to start with the release process, when the unit tests are running, you receive the error you can see in the screenshot, the typical one in Salesforce, the system limit exception, too many SQL queries. So we need to understand what happened. For that, let's clarify some of the points we checked before we started with the release process. The modularized features were working fine when they were individually tested. Via code reviews and following the best practice, we were sure that there are no queries inside of for loops. By design, we added only the necessary queries for the new requirements, and there was no overuse of queries. And the unit tests were working fine before merge all of them together. So what could have happened? Now you go one step further and run exactly the same test, but without your new changes, and it's working fine. But you realize about the following fact: the Apex governor limits were so near to the exception, but you didn't realize until you have faced this real issue. As you can see in the screenshot, you have only a log saying the number of SQL queries is 99 out of 100, so close to the limit. But yeah, sometimes it's difficult to realize about a log. It's only a log, and yeah, you need to analyze all the logs. So well, this is a problem we need to fix, but it's not an easy one to accomplish. As this project is very critical, we will need to meet with technical leads and product representatives to try to find a solution as quick as possible. And there are some options we can do in this kind of situation, but that really depends on the timelines, the design, and the pressure of the project. Some of those options are a rollback until the issue is resolved, do a partial or complete deactivation. This is only possible if the code incorporates switches, deprecation of all projects, which are no longer used by users, and an architecture redesign, moving some flows to asynchronous or creating some fancy framework to help you to improve the performance efficiency of your application.
Okay, so thank you to you, Jose. So we have seen a scenario that, well, this may happen in a lot of companies if you have big development teams, and you don't realize, you don't actually have tools to realize about these kind of problems that you may face until you actually face that issue and you are actually blocked. The only tool that we have right now, as much as I know, is the debug logs, but that actually really means that you need to actively monitor all of your transactions. In this case, there are some situations in which it's impossible to do that. So in Ivory, we have developed a new custom solution internally that might help in this case. So the idea, we have named it test governor limit coverage, and the idea is quite similar to the standard definition by Salesforce, which is Apex test coverage, which you already know. This is a quality effectiveness indicator in order to guarantee the quality of your code. And by Salesforce, there is a requirement of a 75% coverage that has to be met always. This is a standard definition. So we have just name this condition similar to the Apex test coverage, but in this case for the governor limits. This is a new custom project that is inspired by that one, by the standard by Salesforce. It helps measuring the governor limits, in this case of your environment. It can be used to monitor or improve the performance of your applications. And it's based on the foundation that the developers will have to create like a contract of how much of your governor limits you want to cover in this case. We are going to see a little example. This is a custom metadata type in which, well, I believe you cannot see it that well, but we have the definition for all of the governor limits, in this case, so-called social DML immediate limits. And we are defining by default all of them to the 80%. We have the 100%, which is the limit imposed by Salesforce. But in this case, we are downgrading it a bit lower in order to be able to have an alerting system that will tell us if we go beyond that limit. Okay? As I said, they are in the custom metadata types, so they can be easily changed in each one of your environments. And it will not affect your development, because you can actually change it from the org directly, or from the code if you want in the repository. So here is a code snippet that you cannot see either, but anyway, the idea of this is that Many of you may know about the limits class in Apex. This is a class that allows you to check what is the current limit from Salesforce for the governor limits, the one imposed by Salesforce. And at the same time, in the same Apex transaction, you can check at what level of that Apex transaction you are in that very moment. So for example, the SQL queries, you have 100 SQL queries that you can run. So if you check that and you have run 80 queries, in this case, it will be returning the maximum limit and the limit that in which you are, how many queries you have launched for now. So the code is actually comparing what you have at that same moment with the contract that you have defined. So if you go above the contract that you have defined, it will launch an exception. But this is only on the test. Okay? So we have defined a new test class, which is grabbing the standard test, the one that we normally use to say test.start test, test.start test. We are grabbing that. And in that, in that extension that we have defined, we are going to check the governor limits. Okay? So if we go back to the same problem that we had before, and we do a recap of what Jose already explained, if we have that deadline with the project, it's very we had many developer teams working on that, modularized features and so on. We go with everything together. Then we try to deploy. We will be finding the same issue when we run the test, but in this case, we will be receiving the custom exception that we have defined against the limit that we have defined, in this case, the contract. So the idea is to go back to the custom metadata type, increase the limit a bit. Like, for example, by default, we have 80%. We can put 85%. We go again with the release, and then we will be able to proceed, unless you have added 20 or more queries to your release. But that's very difficult to happen sometimes. So if this actually solves your situation, we will not have any more pressure from the high representatives, the tech leads, the product, and so on. There will not be delays in deliverability, and the improvements to increase the performance, because we are really near the limit already, can be done in the future. Okay, so just to finish, I want to share where this idea comes from. As you may imagine, we have faced a very similar issue to the example that we presented at Ivory, because we have very big teams working all together, and at the end, it's very difficult to measure if we don't have an alerting system for that. We also thought, if we have the limits class in Apex, we can actually use that and create some alerting system that currently Salesforce doesn't provide us with that. And the reason why we have used the test for this is because we don't want to disrupt the actual business logic of the platform. With the test, we will be safe because it's only used by the developers, and you will realize without affecting the actual business. OK, so this is the GitHub repository. This is open source. The code snippets are there. You can download them. You can extend them. You can use, because this is just open source. OK, so if any is interested, you can access there. OK. So that's everything. Thank you. And if there are any questions.
When you say Salesforce, Salesforce has a way to monitor what's happening with the test. With the Apex test limit object, I guess, that can be queried. And that will give you, when you run test, it will give you all the threshold. It will tell you have executed 98 queries. You are using 15 social queries. The test is lasting 1 minute, 30 seconds. You use this, or you are not relying on this?
Sorry?
Are you relying on this table, or you are just doing the extraction yourself? There is do you use Apex test limit? I don't remember the name of the object, but there is a name. It's Apex test limit, I guess.
We are using a class which is limits.
Yeah.
Limits.
But you are not using. You should go for the so-called because so-called is providing the information you want. So you can exploit them with your application. It will be easier. And I really like the idea to have a threshold to say I don't want to go behind this limit. But you can rely on so-called to provide you the result, and you just have to pass the result, check with your metadata, and just do the intersection at the end.
Okay, so it's a different way, you mean, to do.
Yeah, and it will be easier for you.
Okay.
You should really, I think it would help you with your framework, and it would help a lot of people.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I will take note.
I'm relying on this table. I never thought to put something in place to do control of my test on a daily basis, but I'm used to go inside my table and check that I'm not close to the limit I don't want to hit. But I think your way is a good one. It's a way to say, anytime I run a class, I can check I'm not already close to the limit.
And the table that will also use a SQL query.
Yeah. No, but the SQL will not be run during the test. It's after the test, you run the query, so it's another so it's outside of the test.
Outside of the test.
And you can check all the tests that have been run. Not only one, you can go for all your tests, and it will give you test by test all the limits he has found.
Yeah.
The time consumption, CPU time consumption. So it's really helpful to see if you have something that is not behaving as you expect. So
but the limit class can be used at runtime.
Yeah, but it is
Not
easier to leave out.
yeah.
I think the code will be simpler, and I love the idea. It's just something that will be easier to maintain. So that's why I was thinking it's a good action. But I really love the idea, so that's why I was thinking this.
Yeah, I will take note of that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Thanks for the idea because I really love it.
thank you.
Are you checking the limits in every test execution, in every unit test, or at all? Do you have impact? How much impact do you have in your test execution timing?
We are starting to use it right now because it's since a couple of months. But yeah.
The test you want to use, you can put only on the most critical test you have.
Okay, you are not using at all?
No. You have to because, for example, if you use it just a controller, it doesn't make that much sense if you have a lot of control. But if you do it in a trigger, for example, so it depends on the volume. You can select where it makes more sense to use it, or if you want to implement it, to use it everywhere. But the idea is, if you have many classes, you have thousands of classes, just to put them in the most critical ones. Yeah.
You just check the test. In every test, you put your extension. You use your extension, right?
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for attending.